The Country Bear Jamboree is a staple of the Magic Kingdom. Regardless of how you feel about it, that's an objective fact. It was an opening day attraction at the park, and one of the only ones exclusive to Walt Disney World at the time. And when looking back at the marketing in the early years of the park, you can see that the Country Bears get a lot of attention. Today, we'll be talking about its most famous star. I am, of course, talking about the bear, the myth, the legend, Big Al. He's undeniably the most popular character in the show, and for good reason. But how did he come to be, and where else can you find him? Well, please refrain from hibernating as we figure that out together. The Country Bear Jamboree was first conceived as an animatronic show for a ski resort called Mineral King. Mineral King never came to be, but the show would eventually find a home at Walt Disney World. Located in Frontierland, it's an audio animatronic show centered on a group of bears playing country music. I was surprised to learn this, but most of the songs are covers. Only the first and last songs were specifically made for the attraction. Big Al was designed by Mark Davis, as is the case with the rest of the characters. Davis modeled him after animator Al Bertino. He's also where the character got his name from. Yes, in addition to all of his other accomplishments, Mark Davis invented fursonas. Wrap your head around that one.
Then I went over to WED, where I did shows like the Country Bear Jamboree, named Big Al after myself. So they wouldn't give you screen credit, so you had to do something.
Bertino also played a large role in the attraction's development, co-writing the attraction, and even helping pick out the music. And that included Big Al's signature song, Blood on the Saddle. The song was first performed by country star Tex Ritter. Bertino introduced the song to Davis, and they both saw its comedic potential.
There was blood on the saddle and blood all around.
You can already see the parallels between this and what would end up being in the attraction. However, instead of recording a new cover of the song, Disney simply licensed the song from Capitol Records and put it into the attraction as is. And no, I have no clue if Ritter knew this happened, which is a shame. I'd love to know what his thoughts were. Al appears near the end of the show. A spotlight shines on a curtain before it opens, revealing him playing a badly out-of-tune banjo. He sings a few lines of the chorus before they move on to the next song, which is Henry and Sammy singing Davy Crockett. But Al decides that he isn't done and comes back in to sing some more, to which the bears respond by singing their final song, Old Slew Foot. Then the curtains close and the show comes to an end. There's actually a lost effect in this scene. At the end of the show, Al is supposed to fall backwards off his little stool. That's why there's an oof and the crashing sound. The animatronic used to lean backwards and little air cannons shot up in front of him, simulating him falling down. But it hasn't been functionable for some time, so what we're left with just seems kind of odd. So, who is Al and what is his story? Because the people involved set out to write backstories for a lot of the characters, which was pretty unprecedented in the 70s. Before the Bear Jamboree came to be, Al was born out in Idaho. He played his guitar since he was a kid, sitting outside his cave and singing. He was a bard and a balladeer in Central Florida swamps that eventually became Walt Disney World. Then once Grizzly Hall set up shop, he went to perform there, to which the badgers and alligators were grateful. He's also on his 10th farewell performance.
Our frustrated baritone singing his 10th farewell on his talented, passionate guitar is Big Al.
But of course, that's just one origin story. Because in 1971, Big Albert Moves In was published by Whitman as a part of their Tell a Tale book line. I already talked about this in a previous video, so you can go watch that if you want the full story. To make it short, he was too lazy to prepare for the winter, so he had to move south, which is how he ended up at Grizzly Hall. That same year, he appeared in a comic about the Country Bears where he, Teddy Barra, and Ernest skipped out on a show to have a picnic. Again, I talked about it in a previous video, and I won't repeat myself here. And yes, his full name is indeed Albert. Learning this fact ruined my life, and I won't suffer alone. Out of all the show's cast of characters, Al became far and away the big breakout star. And yeah, how could he not be? His song is one of the most memorable parts of the show, and still gets big laughs today. Also, look at him. Even when compared to his fellow bears, he stands out, which is why he appears in pretty much every Country Bear spinoff that exists. In 1984, the Country Bear Christmas special debuted at Disneyland and the Magic Kingdom, making it the first holiday overlay of any attraction. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the Country Bear Jamboree, but themed at Christmas. All of your favorite characters returned, singing Christmas standards. Al appeared near the very end, with his numbers themed around the new year. He sings Another New Year in the American version, and Auld Lang Syne in the Japanese version. And he's dressed like Baby New Year. Yeah, cursed image. Just 2 years later, the Country Bear Vacation Hoedown debuted at Disneyland. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the Country Bear Jamboree, but themed around a summer vacation. All your favorite characters returned, singing appropriately themed songs. Al appeared at the very end, dressed in a miner's helmet and red flannel, with his sack decorated to look like a cave. He sings On My Way to Your Heart, a song I can find literally no information about in the American versions. The Japanese version actually has an entirely different song. I've been working on the railroad. And instead of a cave, he's in a spooky forest. Soon after Walt Disney World opened, walk-around characters of the Bears debuted. And naturally, Big Al was one of them. He first showed up in the touring Disney on Parade show with a very long neck. He continues to appear in the parks to this day, especially at the Magic Kingdom's Frontierland, by Grizzly Hall. And this was the version of the character that appeared in all those old Disney sing-along tapes. Speaking of Frontierland, there is a little cart just across from the theater called Big Al's, and it just sells various Frontierland merchandise. Elsewhere in the parks, Tokyo Disneyland briefly hosted a snack stand themed around Big Al called Big Al's Icy Igloo. He's also the little popcorn turner at a popcorn stand in Westernland. There's even merch of it. Over at Disneyland, there's a job posting at the Disneyland casting agency on Main Street mentioning him. The Country Bear Playhouse is looking for talented bears, and all interested parties are encouraged to contact Al. And there's a letter from him at Goofy's Sky School at DCA, updating Goofy with the goings-on with the Bear Band. And that leaves us with only one major appearance left. The Country Bears film. You know, I've made jokes about this movie before, but I've never actually watched it until I started writing this video. How was it? I say this with no sarcasm or snark. I think this movie is good, actually. As for Al himself, he's Country Bear Hall's resident techie and groundskeeper. While Henry and Barry go to get the band back together, he has to stall Christopher Walken's character long enough for the concert to go on. Sadly, he doesn't get any songs, major letdown, but he does get a couple of funny lines. It actually took 3 different performers to bring this bear to life. Terry Hardin was his puppeteer, John Alexander was the guy in the suit, and James Gammon was the voice actor. I genuinely might have to do a longer video on this movie one day, so if you want to see that, subscribe, I guess. When you look at a popular thing, you can't help but wonder if their original creators knew that it was going to be popular. Like, did they know that this was going to resonate with so many people while they were creating it? I only wish I could go back in time and show all of this to people like Mark Davis or Albertino and see what they'd think, knowing that a character they created has lasted for this long. Or even better, what Tex Ritter would think, knowing his voice and song would be associated with a fat animatronic bear for generations of people. We can only speculate. As for Big Al himself, I think he's earned his popularity. There's really nothing else like him in any of the Disney parks. That's a good reason to stand out. Who knows what the future will hold for him? What will they do with him next? Whatever it is, like everything else, I'm sure it'll be memorable. Because he, maybe more than any other characters, truly embodies the phrase, go big or go home. And that concludes the video. It's been a while since the last character deep dive, so I hope you all enjoyed that. If there are any other characters you think deserve to be covered in this format, let me know down in the comments. But that's all the time I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.